What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Devin Burr. In this video today, I'm going to address a question I literally get all of the time. That question is, should I liquidate my 401k in order to start an infinite banking policy? I get this question all of the time, almost daily. And it's a great question. It's not as easy as just yes or no. So I'm going to break down for you when it makes sense to liquidate your 401k in order to start a policy built for infinite banking, and when it doesn't. So hopefully you get a ton of value from this video. When you do, please make sure to like the video. It helps the channel grow a ton. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do that. Let's jump on into it. Now, when it comes to liquidating your 401k, you have to look at where you're at in relation to 59 and a half. So 59 and a half is when you can use money in the 401k without any kind of penalty. If you are really close to 59 and a half, 55, 56, 57, 54, you're close to that age. So you're close to being able to use that money without any kind of penalty. So in my opinion, if you're around that age, if you're close to 59 and a half, I would tell you don't use your 401k. Do not liquidate it. Wait until you're 59 and a half, because then you don't get hit with the penalty. Honestly, the penalty in a 401k is one of the reasons I don't really like government-sponsored plans. You're being handcuffed to that plan. You can't use it without penalty. So if you're close to that 59 and a half age, I wouldn't use it. I would wait until you get to that age, and that way you can access the funds with no penalty. Now, if you're younger, it could make sense to access the 401k. And I'll actually give you an example of what I personally did. This isn't financial advice, so please don't sue me. I'm just letting you know what I would do and what I actually did. When I started my second policy for infinite banking, I liquidated my 401k. And I did this because I was 34, almost 35. So you figure if I was 35, let's call it, I've got a long time before I'm 59 and a half. That would be, 24, almost 25 years until I'm 59 and a half. So I've got to wait that entire time frame to use the funds without being penalized. So in my opinion, at that age, when you're younger, it makes sense. It honestly makes sense to use the 401k, take the penalty, get the money out of that vehicle, because that vehicle, it's not the best for your money, because one, it's tied up till you're 59 and a half, so you've lost control of it. Your money's worth the most today. Because of inflation, the dollar is devalued every single year. So when I was 34, 35, my money is way more valuable then than it would be when I'm 59 and a half, 24, 25 years later. The dollar will be worth way less. In the last 24, 25 years, the dollar's value has decreased by about 70 to 75%. So most likely that'd be the same thing. When I'm 59 and a half, the dollar will be worth less than it's worth today, less than it was worth when I did this, when I was 34, almost 35. So what I did is I liquidated it. I took the hit, the 10% penalty, paid the taxes, but now I've got all that money and I've got control of it. And now I can do things and I can have more control, which means I can make more money and not be subject to some penalty to use the money. So I'm going to break it down for you guys on the whiteboard and kind of show you what I did. I'm also going to show you the policy that I used so you can really get an idea of what I did, why it made sense, and if you're in the same boat, why it might make sense for you. But I'll tell you this, if you are close to 59 and a half, I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't touch the 401k. I would run that time frame out. You've waited this long. Wait till you're 59 and a half, then start using the money. I've got a great video, which I'll link up here, where if you're 59 and a half, how you can start using the money inside your 401k, your IRA, those kind of vehicles without paying too much in taxes. Because when you use that money, you're subject to taxation unless it was a Roth. So let's jump into the whiteboard example so I can show you guys what I did. Okay, so as mentioned, I liquidated my 401k when I was almost 35. So let's just put at 35 years old, that's when I liquidated my 401k. And as mentioned, it makes sense, in my opinion, to do it when you're young because you just have so much time before you're 59 and a half. The dollar is going to devalue a ton over that time frame. You've lost total control of the money because of the penalty. So it just makes sense to liquidate, get full control of that money, and that way you can go make more. And the way I look at money and really anything is the more control you have, the less risk you have. Think about if you're driving a car and your brakes go out. You have lost control of stopping the car. So what happens to your risk of crashing? It goes up because you have lost control of the car. Your money is the same way. If you lose control of it, your risk of losing it goes up. And 401ks, they lose money. There's times where you can lose a lot of money in a 401k. And you basically want to never lose money, ever. I think it was Warren Buffett said there's a few rules to investing. Rule 1, never lose money. Rule 2, never forget rule 1. You don't want to lose money because if you lose money, you've got to make so much more just to get back to where you were at. Think about it. If you've got $100, you lose 50%, you've got $50. Just to get back to $100, you got to make a 100% return. That's extremely difficult without a ton of risk. So that's the whole thing. When I was young, I'm still young, I'm only 40, but when I was 35, I was younger. I've got so much time before I'm 59 and a half. It made sense, liquidate the 401k, take the penalty, and have control of the money. So let's go over it. When I was 35, I had inside of my 401k right about $175,000. So that's what I had built up inside of my 401k that was with my employer. And I resigned. I became a full-time real estate investor. And I just had this 401k sitting there. So it was no longer held by the employer. I now owned it. That's how it works. When you have a 401k and you're employed, the employer owns it. You're just contributing to it. If you resign, now you own the 401k. So basically what I had built up was $175,000. And what I did, I liquidated it. I took the hit on the penalty. So I was penalized 10% of 175 grand. And then I had to pay taxes on that money. That's how it works. So when you liquidate money from a 401k, it's treated as regular earned income. So you're going to get taxed based on what bracket you're in and all that. So how it shook out for me after the penalty that I had to pay because I was before 59 and a half, minus that and minus the taxes, I was left with just about $125,000. That's a very important number because that's what I was left with. That's what I had control of now. I basically lost 50,000 bucks. The taxes, they were going to be there regardless. So that is what it is. If I waited, I'd have to pay taxes when I was 59 and a half. Question is, do you think taxes are going to be less or more in the future? Most likely more. So I might have gotten away with paying less taxes by liquidating when I did in 2020 rather than waiting until 2045 or whatever the year would have been. So I actually took a 50% loss, so to speak, by liquidating the 401k. But now I've got total control of this $125,000. What I did, I took the money and I put it into a specially designed whole life insurance policy. I'm going to bring up the illustration for you guys so you can see exactly the numbers, and I'll tell you how I used it. And that way you can see that it was actually a really, really good decision, especially the older that I get. So let's jump into it. Let's pull up the illustration so you guys can see how this works. All right, guys. So this is the policy that I funded with the $125,000. Now, I got to mention that this isn't an off-the-shelf whole life insurance policy. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I talk about specifically designed policies, ones that are built for the cash value. So you can see here, I put in $125,000 into that policy the first year. Look at the cash value. I've got access to, at the end of the year, $116,000. That means that at the end of the year, I've also got access to the dividend that this insurance company would pay out. The dividend's not guaranteed. However, this company has paid a dividend every single year for over 160 years. That's insane. That means it's through the Great Depression, the World War I, World War II, Civil War, swine flu, bird flu, meltdown of '08. It doesn't matter what economy, this company and most insurance companies are profitable. When they're profitable, they share in those profits with a dividend if it's a mutually owned company. Mutually owned means that you're a part owner of the company. So 125 grand. At the end of the year, I had access to 116. At the beginning of the year, so like right when I funded the policy, I had access to about 109. Okay. So $109,000. I put in 125. I've got access to 109. What I did is I borrowed that 109. I used the cash value. That's what it is. It's availability within inside of the policy. It's a component of a permanent life insurance policy. The ones that we do is instant cash value, high early cash value. So I put in 125. I got access to 109. I took that 109 on a policy loan and I did a flip on a house. So bought a house, did some renovations, flipped the property for a higher price than what I bought it for. I ended up making about 60,000 bucks. So think about that, guys. I had control of the money now. In the 401k, I've got no control. I now have control of the money, so I can go use it for whatever I want. With cash value, you don't have to ask for a loan and qualify and give them financial statements and tell them what the loan's for. If you have cash value inside of a policy, you can use it for whatever you want. Doesn't matter. You can go blow it in Vegas. I don't recommend that. You can use it to pay off debts. I definitely recommend that. You could use it to go to investments. I recommend that. I didn't have any debts, so I used it for real estate to do a flip, and I made $60,000 in profit. So remember what I told you before. I liquidated the 401k that had $175,000. I lost 50 grand because I had to pay the penalty and the taxes. So I'm left with 125. I did a flip that took, I believe it was 4 months. So within 4 months of having control of my money, I made back what I lost and some. And that's only 4 months. Guys, I'm only 40 years old right now. When I did this policy, I was 35. So I've had the ability to control the money for the last 5 years, something I did not have in a 401k. Here's a cool thing too. Inside of specifically designed policies, there's no real limit to how much you can contribute. Inside of a 401k, there is a limit. You can only put in so much. So with this policy, the limit that I chose, you choose your limit. That's the cool thing. You can choose whatever limit you want. You can't put in more without being taxable, but you can put in less. So with my policy here, I decided for my limit to be 125. That's how much I felt like I'd be able to get into this policy every single year. I was doing well with real estate. I was doing flips. I was doing wholesaling. I was like, you know what? I'll be able to do at least 125 a year. So I put 125 in. I can do that every single year for the first 10 years. I can get so much more money into this vehicle to compound and grow tax-free. In a 401k, there's taxes. So now by liquidating the 401k, I'm able to get way more money into a vehicle that is guaranteed to grow. This policy is guaranteed to grow at least 4% every single year without fail. It'll never grow less than 4%, tax-free. Plus the dividend. The dividend with this company tends to be about 2 to 3%. So you figure I'm getting 6 to 7% tax-free growth year in and year out. It's compounding. So the more I put into the premium, the bigger the growth gets, the more I can use in cash value. So look at this, guys. 10 years in, when I'm 45, so that's 5 years from now, still super young, I would have been able to put in $1.25 million into this one policy. All of that money is protected from lawsuits and judgments. Nobody can touch the money except for me. So it's a safer place for the money to be. In a 401k, it can be taken on lawsuits and judgments. It's a private contract between me and the insurance company. So $1.25 million, nobody can touch it. 1.25 million goes into the policy over 10 years. It's growing tax-free. I have access to the capital for whatever I want. So year one, as you guys can see here, I had access to, again, this is end of year values, so it includes the dividend. I had access to $116,000 in cash value. I can use that for whatever I want. Year two, I put another 125. The cash value grows to 241. So that's what, about $125,000 in growth. So that means I put in 125, it grows by 125. So just 1 year in, going into the second year, I can actually use as much as I put in. I take that back. It's going into the third year because it's at the end of the second year, I've got access to that much capital. But you can see it just gets better and better. Look at year 10. I put in 125 and the cash value goes from $1.4 million to 1.509. So that is, what is that? $105,000 in growth. And I apologize. That's for only putting in 50. So in year 11, I put in 50. It grows by 105. That's crazy. That's insane. And that's just going to happen regardless of what I do. I'm going to take the cash value to go make more, but this is just looking at the product, not the concept, not the use of the money, which is what infinite banking is. This is simply looking at the product. Infinite banking is a process, a strategy. Life insurance is a product. Infinite banking is a strategy of how to use that product. So this is just looking at the product. When I put in $50,000 in year 11, the product, the policy grows by $105,000. That's nuts. That's tax-free. I can use all that money tax-free because it's not taxed because I'm borrowing it, and then go make more money with it. So look at this, guys. When I get to 59 and a half, so if I was to do 401k, I would have had zero control of that money until I was 59 and a half, right? So if I didn't liquidate it. At 59, my cash value is up to $3.6 million. Now, who knows if my 401k, if I would have had that much money in it or not. I can tell you this though, if I had that much money in my 401k, it's kind of a moot point because I don't have control of that $3.6 million until I'm 59 and a half. I can do a loan for my 401k, but it's only for 50,000 or 50%, whichever is less. And if I use that, I'm removing it from the 401k. So I'm removing it from being able to grow and compound within the 401k. With this, I'm not doing that. I've got access to the entire $3.6 million to use for whatever I want. I can go take it and buy more real estate. I can take it and buy more crypto. I can take it and buy cars, buy houses. I can do whatever I want. And I'm still going to keep compounding on the $3.6 million, the entire amount. 4% guaranteed plus the dividend that's not guaranteed, but they've paid it every year for over 160 years. So in my opinion, guys, it made all the sense in the world to liquidate the 401k because of how young I was. If I was 55, 56, probably wouldn't have made as much sense because I'm so close to that number. You see how I've got so much time for this money to compound and grow into 3.6 million bucks. That's why it made sense for me to do it. And the thing about this is, with policies, the way they're designed is they're designed in a way to the cash value is the highlight. That's what is highlighted inside the policy, the cash value, not the death benefit. The death benefit is kind of the cherry on top. So if you look at this policy when it started, look what the death benefit started at. The death benefit in this policy started at $7.6 million, okay? Because it's not the highlight. The highlight is the cash value. Started at 7.6. When I am 59 years old, so 59, the death benefit is all the way up to $9.6 million. So that's how these work. As you keep putting money in, the cash value keeps growing, tax-free. The death benefit also keeps growing. And the death benefit is inevitable. I am gonna pass away at some point. It's gonna happen. Hopefully way in the future. But the longer I live, the bigger that death benefit gets, and the death benefit is paid to my family tax-free. So if you look at this, when I am, let's say 90 years old, let's say I live to be 90, okay? At 90 years old, the death benefit is all the way up to almost $19 million, $18.8 million. And it started at 7.6. So it's all the way up to almost 19. My cash value is 16.5. So I can use all 16.5 for whatever I want, and I won't interrupt the compound growth on it. So every single year, it's just going to keep getting bigger, which means I can keep using more money. And here's the kicker. This is the coolest part. I can use all of that money for whatever I want and never pay it back. I should. It's part of the concept of infinite banking, but remember what I said, the more control you have, the less risk you have. With this, you have total control because I decide whether or not I pay the policy loan back. If I never pay the policy loan back, let's say when I'm 90 years old, the death benefit is $18.8 million. The cash value is 16.5. Let's say I just want to go live it up when I'm 90. I take 16 million bucks and I go to Vegas and I just live it up. You know, I just, whatever, 90 years old, let's go have some fun. I go do that and never pay any of it back. And then the next day I pass away, let's say. What happens is this death benefit of $18.8 million will pay off the cash value. So my family will get the difference. They won't get this full amount because I used it. They'll get the difference between these two. So they would get, what was that? $2.3 million tax-free. That's the beauty of infinite banking. If you do it correctly, it's got to be set up correctly for one. So if you do it correctly, you can actually end up paying, you can actually use, a lot more of your money throughout your life, tax-free, because loans aren't taxed. You can have full control whether or not you pay it back, which is amazing. And then you have control over every part of it. And it's not touchable. It's protected from lawsuits and judgments. So I hope this kind of clears up for you guys. This is, again, a question I get all the time, whether it makes sense to use a 401k or not to start an infinite banking policy. For me, it made all the sense in the world because of how young I was. If you are a little bit older, I think probably you shouldn't do it because you're so close to 59 and a half. So hopefully you guys got a ton of value from this. Please like the video if you did. It helps the algorithm. It helps the channel a ton. If you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure to do that. And if you liked this video, I know you're going to love that one. Until next time, I love you guys. Peace.